What if I told you that one teacher changed the lives of thousands of children, not by what she taught in the classroom, but by what she never told anyone outside of it? Today, I'm sharing the incredible story of Mrs. Eleanor Hayes, a woman who understood that sometimes the most important lesson a teacher can give is simply knowing when to listen and when to stay silent. This is a story about trust, compassion, and the profound impact one person can have when they choose to truly see the children in their care. If you believe in the power of kindness, please hit that subscribe button, because this story will remind you why teachers are truly heroes. Eleanor Hayes began teaching at Lincoln Elementary School in Chicago in September of 1962. She was 22 years old, fresh out of college, with bright eyes and a heart full of hope. The school was in a tough neighborhood, the kind of place where many teachers came and went within a year or two. But Eleanor was different. She didn't just see a classroom full of students, she saw individual souls, each carrying their own story, their own struggles, their own dreams. And from her very first day, children seemed to gravitate toward her. It started small. During recess, instead of chatting with other teachers, Eleanor would sit on a bench and somehow, children would find their way to her. They'd start with simple questions about homework, but then, they'd start talking about other things. Real things. By her second year, Eleanor had established what she called quiet time, 15 minutes after school, where any student could stay and talk to her about anything. Anything at all. And she made them a promise that would define the next 4 decades of her life. "Whatever you tell me," she said, "stays between us. Unless you're in danger, your secrets are safe with me." She had no idea that this simple promise would change thousands of lives. In 1963, 7-year-old Marcus Johnson was the first child to truly test Eleanor's promise. He was a bright kid, but he'd started falling asleep in class, his grades were dropping, and other teachers labeled him as lazy or troublesome. During one of their quiet time sessions, Marcus finally broke down and told Eleanor the truth. His father worked 3 jobs to keep their family afloat, his mother cleaned offices at night, and Marcus was responsible for watching his 4 younger siblings until his parents came home around midnight. He was 7 years old, folks. 7. And he was carrying the weight of the world on his little shoulders. He begged Eleanor not to tell anyone because he was terrified that if people knew, social services might split up his family. Eleanor kept his secret. But she didn't just keep quiet, she acted. She started staying late at school, helping Marcus with homework so he wouldn't fall behind. She brought extra snacks, knowing he often went hungry. She even arranged for Marcus to eat breakfast at school every morning. When other teachers asked why she was giving Marcus special treatment, Eleanor simply said, "Every child has different needs." She never broke his confidence, but she made sure he had what he needed to succeed. Marcus graduated from that elementary school, went on to high school, then college on a scholarship. He became a social worker, dedicated to helping families just like his own. And he credits it all to one teacher who saw him, really saw him, and chose to help without judgment. But Marcus was just the beginning. Over the years, Eleanor's reputation spread. Children knew they could trust her, and trust her they did. By the 1970s, she was hearing secrets that would break your heart. There was Sarah, age 8, whose parents were getting divorced, and she blamed herself because they fought about her medical bills. There was Tommy, age 9, who was being bullied so severely he'd started hiding in the school bathroom during lunch. There was Maria, age 10, whose family had fled their home country, and she was terrified every day that immigration officers would come to school. And then there were the darker secrets. The children who whispered about things happening at home that no child should ever have to endure. Eleanor learned to read between the lines, to see the signs that adults often missed. When she suspected abuse, Eleanor found ways to help without breaking trust. She'd involve school counselors, suggest family resources, even make anonymous calls to child services when necessary. But she always found a way to keep her promise to the child. I asked Eleanor once, and she's 84 now, how she carried all those secrets for so many years. Her answer still gives me chills. I didn't carry their secrets, she said. I carried their trust. And trust, when handled with care, doesn't feel heavy, it feels sacred. But the weight of what she knew, of what she couldn't share even with her own family, sometimes kept her awake at night. Her husband, Robert, would find her sitting in their kitchen at 2 a.m., just staring out the window. "Another hard day?" he'd ask. And Eleanor would nod, never able to explain why, never able to share the burden. Robert learned not to ask for details. He just made her tea and sat with her in the quiet. In 1985, Eleanor had been teaching for 23 years when she met Jessica. Jessica was 11 years old, in 6th grade, and she was angry. Angry at the world, angry at school, angry at everyone around her. Other teachers had given up on Jessica. She was disruptive, disrespectful, and seemed determined to fail. But Eleanor saw something different. She saw a child in pain. It took months, but during one quiet time session, Jessica finally exploded. She told Eleanor that her mother had remarried, and her stepfather made it very clear that Jessica wasn't welcome in their new family. She felt like she had nowhere to belong. "I don't matter to anyone," Jessica cried. "I'm just in the way everywhere I go." Eleanor looked at this hurting child and said something that Jessica would remember for the rest of her life. "You matter to me. You matter so much that I've been waiting patiently for months just to hear your story. You're not in the way, Jessica, you're exactly where you need to be." From that day forward, Jessica's life changed. Not overnight, real change never happens that fast. But gradually, with Eleanor's steady support and unwavering belief in her, Jessica began to believe in herself. Jessica went on to become a pediatric nurse. She told me, "Mrs. Hayes taught me that even when you feel completely alone, there's always someone willing to listen." That's what I try to give my young patients now, the same gift she gave me. But here's the remarkable thing, Eleanor never took credit for Jessica's transformation. When people praised her for saving students, she'd shake her head and say, "I didn't save anyone. I just reminded them that they were worth saving." In 2002, after 40 years of teaching, Eleanor announced her retirement. The school planned a small farewell party, expecting maybe 50 people, current colleagues, a few parents, perhaps some recent graduates. What happened next was extraordinary. Over 300 people showed up. Former students who were now doctors, teachers, mechanics, parents, grandparents themselves. They came from across the country, some flying in just for this party. And one by one, they stood up and shared their stories. Marcus, now 46, talked about how Eleanor had helped him survive his childhood while protecting his family's dignity. Sarah, now a marriage counselor, spoke about how Eleanor had helped her understand that her parents' divorce wasn't her fault. Tommy, a successful businessman, credited Eleanor with teaching him that being different wasn't something to hide from. But the most powerful moment came when Jessica, now a pediatric nurse, stood up and said, "Mrs. Hayes, you probably don't remember this, but 17 years ago, you told me that I mattered." That was the first time any adult had ever said those words to me. Everything I've accomplished since then started with that moment. Eleanor was crying. In fact, there wasn't a dry eye in the room. Because suddenly, everyone realized what had been happening for 4 decades. This one woman had been quietly, consistently, changing lives one secret, one conversation, one moment of trust at a time. The local newspaper got wind of the story and wanted to interview Eleanor. But true to form, she declined. "This isn't about me," she said. "This is about them." It was always about them. After Eleanor's retirement party, something beautiful happened. Her former students stayed in touch, not just with her, but with each other. They created what they called the Hayes family, a network of people connected by their shared experience of being truly seen and heard by one extraordinary teacher. Today, at 84, Eleanor still gets letters, emails, and phone calls from her former students. They share their successes, their challenges, their own children's achievements. And sometimes, they still share their secrets, because once you've experienced that kind of trust, that kind of unconditional acceptance, you never forget it. Last year, on Eleanor's 82nd birthday, she received a package with no return address. Inside was a leather-bound book titled "The Secrets That Set Us Free." It was filled with letters from hundreds of her former students, sharing their stories and thanking her for the gift of being heard. The final page contained a letter that read, "Dear Mrs. Hayes, you kept our secrets for 40 years, protecting our dignity and our trust. Now we want to share our secret with the world. You are the reason many of us learned to believe in ourselves. You are the reason we learned that every person has value. You are proof that one person really can change the world." Eleanor told me that reading that book was like watching 40 years of seeds finally bloom into flowers. Friends, Eleanor Hayes never became famous. She never wrote a book, never gave a TED Talk, never appeared on television. But she changed the world one child, one conversation, one kept promise at a time. Her story teaches us something profound about the power of simply listening, of creating safe spaces for people to share their truth. In a world that often feels loud and judgmental, Eleanor chose to be quiet and accepting. In a world that demands immediate answers, she offered patient presence. She understood something that we've forgotten in our busy lives. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do for another person is simply witness their story without trying to fix it, judge it, or share it with others. Eleanor kept thousands of secrets for 40 years, but she left behind one truth for all of us: every person, regardless of age, background, or circumstances, deserves to be heard, to be valued, and to be trusted. So I challenge you, who in your life needs someone to truly listen to them? Who needs to know that their story matters? Be someone's Mrs. Hayes. Create a space where secrets can be shared safely, where trust is sacred, where every person knows they have value. If this story touched your heart, please share it. The world needs more Eleanor Hayes. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories that celebrate the quiet heroes among us. Until next time, remember, the most important conversations often happen in whispers, and the greatest teachers are those who help us learn to believe in ourselves.